Previously, on part 2, you saw me go round to the car park swim, rake and bait that new spot before returning to the grassy knoll for my third night. I managed to catch a few the next morning, but it was apparent that they had turned up in numbers on the bait in the car park swim, so a move was on the cards. We got ourselves around there, got set up, and the next couple of nights were pretty hectic.
Fucking got it! Fucking got it, Ash! I've got it, lad!
Oh my God. Well, welcome back to the Manor for round 2. We are here for another 5 nights in the lead up to the full moon this time. And you'll be pleased to know, or I certainly am, that the fully has still not been caught. I certainly lost a few nights sleep over that fish. We had a chat with Justin on the way round. We arrived sort of midday today, and as I walked around the lake, he was sat in his lodge. There has been a handful of fish out in our absence, but the biggest being a 30-pounder, no big one. Unfortunately, the lake has had a bit of an algae bloom. I mean, there was algae in the water when we got here last time, but it is a lot greener, which makes spotting fish difficult. But it was obvious when we got here that there was a lot of fish in this car park area yet again. Obviously, this is the swim that I finished off in last time we were here. We've been away for 9 days. 9 days is a long time and a lot can change. But I've got a plan in mind for this session to consistently bait 2 areas and alternate the nights between those 2 areas, because it was obvious last time that after a night in a zone, they would push away and basically end up on the opposite side of the lake. On our final morning of the last trip, there were so many carp on the other side of the lake. I did manage to catch a couple, but I only had those 2 bites, and as I say, it was obvious that the majority of the fish were on the opposite side of the lake. In that area where I fished the single rod just to the left of the grassy knoll, for whatever reason, last time we were here, they were absolutely loving that area to the left of the grassy knoll. So I've decided to set up in the car park because it was easy to get the rods out. Obviously, I know the spots in here, but I have baited that area on the far bank. Now, I've gone for a slightly different approach in this swim. The spot that I raked and fished 2 rods on last time, I've decided to only fish 1 rod on it this time round. The main reason being is the weed is very bad. It's come up quite a lot in the time we've been gone, which makes line lay a bit of an issue. And the other reason being, I actually found another spot in amongst the weed out to the right, a really nice spot at 8.5 wraps, really clean. I'd imagine it's the spot that most people fish in this swim, but it's right amongst those big weed beds where the carp are spending a lot of their time. So rather than having 2 rods on that long spot with a terrible line lay and the potential of taking 1 line out whilst playing a fish, you know, I'd rather just have that 1 rod out there, and then the other rod is on a completely different area out to the right. The 3rd rod is close in the swim to the left, where it was the first night that I spent in this swim. Obviously, I did catch a couple of stockies on that rod, and then I moved it and put it under the tree in this swim and didn't catch anything, but I feel like having 3 rods in this swim is a bit much, so it's another rod in the game, it's just in the swim next door, out the way. But yeah, as I say, I have been around the other side. I've put about 4.5 kilos of boilie out with a catapult, spread on 2 different spots at the same sort of range, where I was seeing them at the end of last week's trip. They may be using totally different areas this time round. We don't know. I don't know until the morning has passed. You know, if we see somewhere else that looks really good, like I say, 9 days is a long time. You know, they could be favouring somewhere else this time round. But from what I learnt last trip, I feel like where we are now and over there are the best two areas. Certainly for getting bites. Whether they're the best two areas for catching that big one, I don't know. But yeah, fingers crossed. Like I say, it's the full moon Friday. It is now Tuesday. So, fingers crossed. Without seeing that big one, all we can do is keep catching them and hope that it comes along. Well, a very eventful night last night. Put it this way, I didn't get a lot of sleep. But unfortunately, it wasn't carp that kept me awake. It was bats flying through the lines. You know, I have had bats fly through my lines in the past. You know, when you got your tips up, it can be a bit of an issue. But last night was next level. I've never seen so many bats flying up and down the margins, and from about 12:30 last night until it got light this morning, all three of my rods were pretty much constantly bleeping. You know, every minute or two one of the rods would bleep where one of these bloody bats touched the lines. So as a result, I've had no sleep. I did hear a few carp in the night, not loads, and they sounded pretty spread out, although I did hear a fair few consistent shows up here to my left. I mean, the lake as a whole has been a total contrast this morning to what it was when we left last time. You know, I did worry that leaving the lake for 9 days a lot could change, and that seems to be the case. I haven't caught anything. I haven't had any bites. I actually did a lap not long ago while Ash watched the rods, and even where I baited on the other side seems pretty dead. And they were visiting that area every single morning on the last trip. But this area in front of me here, in front of this swim called the Gate, is alive with carp this morning. We're sort of a couple of swims up to the left of where I'm set up now. We're on the sort of entrance to the shallows. The shallows is to my left. And in front of me here in the weed, it has quietened down a bit now, but over the last hour or so, it has been absolutely alive with patches of fizzies. Multiple patches of fizzies coming up. I can see carp drifting in and out of the weed. And then there's a band of weed in front at about 40, 50 yards. And behind that band of weed, again, there's been loads of carp activity, you know, loads of bubbling. They were showing there first thing this morning. In fact, they're fizzing out there now, they're fizzing here now, 2 patches. I mean, my left-hand rod, the rod that I've got fished on its own, is just down here to the right, but I feel like it's just too far away from them. So yeah, somehow I need to fish for these carp, because like I say, I have done a lap. Everywhere else, as it stands at the minute, seems pretty quiet. This area in front of me here is where it's at, but I need to make my mind up. Do I fish here, short, just into this hole in the weed, or do I go back round to the grassy knoll? I've actually stood in there this morning and lined it up, and I could fish long to the back of the weed. As I say, there's a lot going on out there as well, but we'll see what happens over the next couple of hours. It's still relatively early, it's about 9 o'clock. You know, there's still a chance of a bite. I'm not going to rush and do anything now. But yeah, tonight, I need to be fishing somewhere in this zone in front of here.
Oh, bite, bite.
I'm pretty sure I just see the big one at the back like.
Well, we've got one, but let me tell you, since I spoke to you last, which was a couple of hours ago now, there has been a drastic turn in events. Put it this way, when the rod went off with this one on the end, my heart was in my mouth. I'm going to quickly get this one back, and while I'm getting the rod ready to go back out, we'll tell you more about what's happened. Nice to get one though.